Good evening, good evening. Pelicans Daily, presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Let's get right to it. Let's not waste a second, minute. Grab your popcorn and take a seat. Because it's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right. Let's talk about what everybody has been talking about. Should we move Zion Williamson this offseason? Now, I know that this has been a talking point for the last 2 or so, maybe even 3, but really like 2 off seasons, right? In the aftermath of summer 2023, non-family show approved kind of occasion, there was a lot of question, right? And what is Zion going to do? Get buckets, ball out. Played in 70 games, took us to the playoffs. Now, it's painful. Put up 40 against the Lakers. Had their number the entire game. Was giving it to LeBron every single play. Anthony Davis couldn't guard him. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to overcome injuries. That's the repeated theme with Zion. Injuries. He played 70 games. We nearly won 50 games. But those injuries, man, those injuries are a killer. Now, I understand those who feel like we should move on from Zion. I understand. I do. He was drafted to be not just the franchise savior, but the savior of the league. The face of the NBA. The one to take the baton from LeBron, Steph, and KD when they retire. And so far it's been a mixed bag in total. But on court, when healthy, the man is a walking 26, 7, and 5 on efficient shooting. Last year, put up 25, 7, and 5 on 57% shooting. He only played 30 games, and they did go 10 and 20. But you're not getting numbers like that from just anybody, I promise. You're just not. You know the kind of players that you're getting those numbers from? Oh, yes. The Shays of the world. The Jokers of the world. The Giannis's of the world, who I'll be talking about at some point in this video. The Jason Tatums of the world. Get better, my brother. The Luka Doncic of the world. The Ant Edwards of the world. He might make an NBA Finals run, okay? That's the kind of players that are putting up those type of numbers. If you think a Zion Williamson grows on trees, I'm here to tell you, they do not. You can't find them in the deepest swamp in the bayou. You cannot. So, I understand. There have been questions that have been called into, is his focus on basketball? Is he committed to staying in shape, staying healthy, and being able to play a full season? And that's not even discussing the fact that he still needs to expand his range. He's getting a little more comfortable with that mid-range face-up, but we need more. We need more. We need more. And we all know the 3-ball is just not. It's not a consistent weapon yet, right? 23% is not cutting it. It's not cutting it. He's a good kid, all right. That's not the only reason, right? But anybody who has ever interacted and seen Zion, he's a good kid. He was raised well, you know. He's got a lot to still figure out. He's still maturing. I think a lot of people don't recognize enough that he came out of college as an 18-year-old freshman. So there still is much maturation that he is going through. But I do believe that at this stage of his life, and especially after the year he had last year, if we draft well and we continue to build the nucleus around him, I have faith that not only will Zion be the franchise savior, but still has face of the league potential. He's 24 years old. Like, it kills me when I see people saying, it's over for him. He's got no chance. Get rid of him while you can. He's 24! 24! How many of y'all at 24 with multi-millions in your pockets are going to be making all the wisest decisions? living in a city with as good as cooking as New Orleans, okay? Now, Zion, if you can hear me, if you're watching this, my brother, put the beignets down. Get some broccoli. Get some lean meats. No steak. No T-bones. All right? I know that gumbo is good down there, but maybe go for some lentil soup. Something a little bit lighter. All right? But I got faith in Zion. I got faith in the young man that he's going to turn it around. The player who was putting up 25, 7, and 5 on nearly 60% shooting, there was much hope. There was much faith, and it is way too quick to give up on him. Now, the only reason why or how a trade should be facilitated or made is if two things. We can move up in the draft, which I'll be talking about next, or there is some team out there, as crazy as Dallas was at the trade deadline, when they traded Luka Doncic to LA, fresh off of him leading them to a finals the year prior. That's the only way if we can get another superstar. Otherwise, keep the young man on the team. Keep Zion on the team. We have not even seen the best of his abilities. We have not. This young man was compared to guys like Charles Barkley, Larry Johnson, Karl Malone, LeBron even, all right? I mean, I never liked that comparison personally, but, you know, throwing Blake Griffin, right? Everyone that I'm naming was not just a star, but a superstar at some point in time. LeBron is still, right? LeBron is still part of that echelon of top players who are putting up those type of numbers that I named for Zion for 25, 7, 5. That's damn near LeBron's stat line from last season. Even though I think he was more, this past year he averaged like 24. But still, it is too soon. We have not seen the best of his potential. Shawn Kemp is another player, right? Okay, I could keep going with the players that Zion was compared to. And he has shown the flashes. He has shown when healthy. And he has shown he can be a winning player too. Last year showed and proved that. We would have had the 7th seed and likely would have not gotten swept in the first round if he doesn't get hurt against LA in the play-in. So I've spoken my piece on Zion, but y'all know where I stand. I want us to keep Zion. Unless we can get a better pick or a superstar. That's the only reason to move him. But I believe Joe Dumars sent a message to the fan base by sending him to the draft lottery. And that message was, Zion ain't going nowhere. He is a Pelican. So, let's go. Let's move on. Who do we draft at pick number 7? Now, anytime you go 21 and 61, you're thinking, all right, we're going to somewhere pick from 1 to at worst 5. We got pick 7. Luck of the draw. Some might say calls were made. I don't want to go there. That's not the purpose of this video. But lucky for us, this isn't just a good draft. This is a great draft. One of the best drafts, I would say, since 2021, right? And that draft had Cade Cunningham, who put up a similar stat line to Zion on his way to leading the Pistons to a playoff berth and an incredible single-season turnaround. Jalen Green, who, hasn't fully figured out, but he's like right there. There's moments like game 2. Like game 2 in that first round series against Golden State. It showed, right? The potential is tantalizing. But he was a big reason for why the Rockets were the number 2 seed out west. And the Rockets are very similarly built to the Pelicans. A lot of young guys. Very few veterans, but a lot of young, talented young guys. So the future is bright over there. Obviously Coach Udoka having the pedigree coming over from Boston, having had taken them to an NBA Finals where they nearly beat the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago. Yes, that's a big factor. We still need to see if Willie has what it takes to do that. But the roster-wise, right? Similar build. Evan Mobley Defensive Player of the Year. Cavs, yes, they went out sad, but he was an integral and a huge piece and reason to why they finished as the top seed out in the East. And he had his first All-Star season this year. So that was just the top 3 of the draft. There was other great players that came out of that draft. I didn't even mention Scotty Barnes, who is one of the best all-around young players when healthy. And I'm excited to see what he and Brandon Ingram are able to do. I actually think that tandem is going to work in their favor. But this is about the Pelicans. So, anyway, this is a very interesting draft. There's a lot of young players that I think could come in day one and produce. So, for starters, ESPN projected us to pick Kaman Malik. 7'2", freshman out of Duke. Now, he didn't show up in the game against Houston. Yes. 1 rebound is not going to cut it. Young man averaged 9 points, 7 boards, and a block a game. These numbers don't jump off the paper. They don't jump off the screen. But he is an eye test type of player. Very fundamentally sound, despite only having been playing basketball for 3-4 years. Has the background in soccer, so you see the footwork. Can run to the rim well. Is developing his face-up game. May even expand to the 3-point line. Right? He is incredibly raw. But the potential is tantalizing. I can't lie. Now, the players that he's been compared to so far, on the low end, a guy like Mitchell Robinson, who right now has had a very good playoffs right now as the defensive anchor for those New York Knicks, right? Lob threat. But on the higher end, compared to guys like Rudy Gobert, Ivica Zubac. Now, neither of them are elite, but Gobert is an all-star, multi-defensive player of the year, and has had an amazing playoff so far. I mean, Minnesota might make a finals run. They might upset OKC. Who knows? Shout out to OKC, but who knows, right? He has played a huge impact this year on that Timberwolves roster in this playoffs. So, then Zubac. Zubac had a breakout year. In my opinion, you could have argued that Zubac should have been an all-star. That's just my personal opinion, right? Put up a double-double, was a force and threat at the rim, and was a great player to have next to all those shot creators they got in LA with Harden, Kawhi, Norm Powell. So a player like Kaman Malik, I think another name that we haven't brought up is Tyson Chandler. I see some similarities with his game, except I think that Kaman is going to develop a much better mid-range and low-post game than Tyson Chandler. But those who remember going way back in the day, like, I mean, I was a toddler. But for those who watched ball, maybe a little older, right? Tyson Chandler was thought and projected to be the player that Anthony Davis was, right? Coming out of Dominguez. I'm not saying Kaman is going to be AD, but if he can develop just a little bit to keep the defense honest, a mid-range jumper, hey, watch out. Now, there is a slight but good problem to have. But Yves Missy, love the kid. Top 25 overall pick. Fresh out of Baylor, came through, one of the youngest players in the league, one of the youngest freshmen in college ball in his season, and he stepped in and produced very well, and similar to what Kaman just did this past year at Duke. He averaged 9, 8, and a block a game on 55% shooting. Now, do you run a Twin Towers big lineup? I don't know. You know, this modern NBA requires a lot of spacing, a lot of shooting. I don't know how that works. But 21-61 record, you got to go best player overall. Now, this is assuming we don't trade pick number 7. I just want to put this out there as a disclaimer and a precursor. But let me know what y'all think about Kaman. I'm very high on the kid. And I'm gonna throw this out there. I am a Duke fan, but I'm very objective. I'm not over here fanboying or none of that. I've seen a lot of great Duke basketball, and I've seen some mediocre Duke basketball. So I have a very valid perspective, because they've never just been outright bad, but they've had some mediocre years. NBA DraftNet. Now, shout out to NBA DraftNet. Just want to give them a shout out. You know, they have some of the best mock drafts in the business. They've got us projected to take Trey Johnson. Now, Trey Johnson was a player that I loved watching. I loved watching him this last year. Just a bucket. Can get a shot at any part of the court. Smooth jump shot. 6'6", 2 guard. I mean, the intangibles are just there. Average nearly 20 per game. 3 boards, 3 assists. He's got to work on a bit of more of the all-around game, yes. But he shot 40% from 3. Now, on the low end, his comparisons are guys like Nick Young, Cam Thomas. You know, guys that are just tantalizing, but can't fully put it together. But, you know what I'm saying, the scoring ability on and off the ball is there. Getting a bucket from every part of the court. That is a skill that many do not have. But on the higher end, right, he's been compared to guys like Tyler Herro and Latrell Sprewell. 2 very different players. 2 very different players. But Tyler Herro just was a first-time All-Star with the Heat this year and won the 3-point shootout. He's had a very good career for himself so far. Also part of Zion's class in 2019. Was a very big piece and reason why the Heat were able to go to the finals in the bubble. So, all right, Latrell Sprewell, right? Latrell Sprewell at one point was one of the best 2 guards in the league in the time where Jordan had kind of retired, but then came back, and he was one of the best 2 guards in the, you know, Jordan to later on the Kobe, Vince, T-Mac era of 2 guards. And he was a big reason for why the Knicks made it to the finals as the first 8th seed in NBA history back in 99. So, hey, Trey Johnson, if he can be either those type of players or like a mix of them too, you're not just talking about a good player, you're talking about an all-star. Potentially, if he puts it all together, like, you know, a franchise player. Now, another good problem to have, Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy last year stepped up immensely, right? Had a breakout year, averaging 21, 5, and 4 on 45% from the free throw line, 36% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line. There are some similarities with him and Trey Johnson, which could cause the two's play styles to overlap. Trey's a couple inches shorter than Trey. Trey Johnson is 2 inches shorter than Trey Murphy, so maybe it's too overkill. Then you also off the bench, Brandon Boston, Jordan Hawkins. So it's tough, but best player available. I would not be surprised. Something about him and his play style, and given the Hornets do need shooting, I would not be surprised if they make that pick. All right. The third player that I've seen get mocked to the Pelicans, and this is from CBS Sports, but Collin Murray Bayless from South Carolina, who had a very, very good year this past year, averaging around 17 a game, 8 boards, and 2 assists. Now, here's the catch. Undersized power forward. Now, where have we heard that before? Ah, yes, Mr. Williamson. Come back into the class. I know some people are like, another sub 6'8", sub 6'10" power forward? Really? But bear with me, right? On the lower end, he's been compared to guys, you're a Real Hoops fan, Real Hoops head if you know this name. Danny Fortson. Again, Real Hoops head if you know that name. I know that name. I don't know if y'all do, but you're a Real Hoops head if you know that name. Which This is on the low end. This is not the ceiling. This is the floor, right? Danny Fortson, Grant Williams. Now, at a pick 7, I feel like you can get more value than that at a pick 7, personally, right? Stephen Curry was picked at number 7, okay? For context. Bernard King was picked at pick number 7. Chris Mullin, who I'm going to get into next for the next player, was picked at 7 in the 85 draft. So, I mean, like, I feel like you can get more value at pick 7. But on the higher end, his ceiling is higher, right? He's been compared to guys like Draymond Green, which, look, laugh all you want, but he is going to be a Hall of Famer at some point. You know what I'm saying? But with more of an offensive bag, obviously, right? Draymond wasn't putting up those kind of stats at Michigan, even at Michigan State. Paul Millsap, very, arguably the number 1 overall player on that 2015 Hawks team. Enjoyed some great years out in Utah, and if he reaches that Paul Millsap level, right, floor spacing, right? You have a guy that can shoot from the mid-range to the 3. And then the last name, which I found very interesting, Julius Randle. Another New York Knickerbocker who is enjoying an amazing playoff season so far. And he enjoyed some good years in New Orleans. He was part of that trade to send Anthony Davis to L.A. He was part of that. So, but it might be overkill. It also might be overkill to have him there if they keep Zion. That's the thing. If they keep Zion, then it doesn't really make much sense to pick him up. But best player available. That's what they're going off of. All right. Now, NBA.com. This one was very interesting. But I think the last one's even more interesting. But still, this one. Antetokounmpo, 6'7" as well, but a 2-guard from Duke. One of the best freshmen in the country this past year. Shot 48% from the field, nearly 41% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line. Talk about efficiency, right? Very smart player, knows to pick his spots. Is a lot more underrated as a shot creator because he did average 14, 4, and 3, and he did step up when Cooper Flagg, who's projected to go number 1, obviously, and there's no way he doesn't go number 1, especially after Dallas, the year that they had after they traded Luka. But he stepped up greatly, right? He showed that he is a player that can put the ball down if need be. That's not necessarily what you want from him, but he is not incapable of doing that. And the shooting ability, right? The Pelicans were near the bottom of the league, around 25th, 26th in three-point shooting percentage. So it never hurts, especially in today's NBA, to have more shooters. Now, on the low end, he's been compared to guys like Jared Dudley. Shout out to Jared Dudley. He's doing his thing right now as part of the front office. And I believe in Atlanta. Don't quote me. Bojan Bogdanovic, who very underrated player. A player who can get, anywhere between 15 to 20 on fairly efficient shooting. Is able to pick his spots well. Is not the most explosive athlete, just like Khan. Because I will say, the one issue and area of weakness that I'm most worried about is his defense. He is the equivalent to barbecue chicken. I mean, maybe that's more of a Memphis thing. So, po' boys, jambalaya, like catfish, crawfish. Like, the young man needs a lot of work on defense, but he plays hard. He's got a lot of spunk. He's got a lot of chutzpah. So I do believe that he would fit well, but there are questions about the defense. Now, on the higher end, he's been compared to guys like Cam Johnson, who is one of the best shooters in the league. Played a big role on that 2021 Suns team that almost beat the Bucks, who I'm gonna be talking about next. And has, played very well in Brooklyn as a three-point shooter who can also occasionally put the ball down the floor if need be. But the highest ceiling for Khan Chris Mullin, who I mentioned, number 7 pick. So maybe it's destiny. Number 7 back in 1985, 40 years later. Who knows? Different franchise, obviously, right? But maybe the same luck. Although, Khan's a righty, Chris Mullin was a lefty. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. And then last but not least, now Yahoo Sports. I found this pick very intriguing. But this pick also comes down to what happens in the backcourt for those Pelicans. Because we didn't have just one guy go down, but we had two. Two guys that were very instrumental to our projected success. And one guy who was a very instrumental part of our previous success, right? So, and that I'm referring to DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum, the two mainstay veterans within the starting lineup, at least. I know Kelly Olynyk was also in the same draft class as CJ McCollum back in 2013, but he's coming off the bench. We're talking about guys in the starting lineup. We gave up a lot to get DeJounte. You know what I'm saying? Got rid of one of the Defensive Player of the Year finalists and, in my opinion, a stud rookie that I wanted to see more with and of. But Dyson Daniels, who has been on a tear, who was on a tear last year in Atlanta, the ceiling is incredibly high for him. Got rid of Larry Nance, solid veteran. You can get those. But we gave up multiple picks, multiple first round picks. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. So, yeah. This pick. Now, this pick, I actually feel like Joe Dumars, shout out to Joe Dumars, I feel like he's going to like what he sees out of this young man. But Jeremiah Fears, Oklahoma, 6'4", point and shooting guard. So, we do have a bit of a good problem and a logjam because, right, Jeremiah Fears this past year averaged 17, 4-4, 2 steals as well. Now, the shooting efficiency does have to get better. But granted, he was Oklahoma's primary shot creator, and he was also the youngest freshman in the country. So, I feel like there's a lot tantalizing there. He can play, he can take it to the basket. He can beat you from the outside. He can just mix you up, cross you up. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of skill. He's got a lot of talent and ability. Now, his NBA comparisons, I think, were the best of any of the players that I've seen. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But on the low end, he was compared to Jordan Poole, Doc Rivers. Yeah, don't forget, Doc Rivers was in the NBA, was an all-star with the Hawks. Which I can see the Jordan Poole of the 2, but can play the point, shot creator, can score from every part of the court, very confident in his shot. But on the higher end, and then the Doc for being more athletic, having the defensive chops as well. But on the higher end, right? 2 names. Now, when you think of these 2 players and you fuse them, for all my Dragon Ball Z fans out there, but you fusion dance you fusion dance them together, right? Watch out. But the 2 players he got compared to on the higher end, John Wall and Jamal Murray. Now, just imagine John Wall with Jamal Murray's shooting ability. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jeez. Woo! What a player, right? John Wall at his peak, you could argue best pure point guard for about 3-4 seasons, right? You could argue from about 2014, 2017, 2018, you could argue best just pure point guard, right? And in terms of a floor general, but size, speed, athleticism, ability to get to the basket, hard nose, just that dog, right? But then Jamal Murray, especially since the bubble, has been one of the most criminally slept on and underrated players. A huge reason for that 2023 title. And continuously one of the best closers in the league, one of the best bucket getters from his position as a 2, you know what I'm saying, mid-range 2. Now, if Jeremiah Fears is either combo of those players, that to me is a pick well spent at 7. There is a logjam in the backcourt just a bit. I mentioned names, right? DeJounte, CJ, Trey Murphy, if we're count him as a 2. And that's not counting Grand Theft Alvarado, Point, or counting guys off the bench like Brandon Boston or Jordan Hawkins. But hey, it is better to have an abundance than have a scarcity. That's just my philosophy, personally. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Pelicans do. Y'all let me know in the comments who y'all think we're going to draft. We can't go wrong either way. We are in a good situation and a very good draft to draft from. So I'm very optimistic. But I just hope they make the right pick because I can't handle a bad pick. We made a great pick last year with Missy, but that's not a guarantee every year. So we were lucky that he showed a lot of promise, and I believe that all 5 of those guys do have what it takes to step in day one. But I do think Jeremiah Fears, like how I mentioned, that Trey Johnson has all-star potential, potentially star if he expands his game. I think Jeremiah Fears, as a 2-way player with his combination of size, speed, shot creation, I believe he could be a franchise piece. If, you know what I'm saying, if he develops at the rate that he is expected. Now, let's talk about Giannis. We briefly mentioned him, but let's talk about him officially. Should we make a trade for Giannis? Anytime you have a multi-MVP, an active member of the top 75, an NBA champion, and he is potentially available, you don't find reasons not to. You find ways to do so, right? Now, what's very interesting is that there is some overlap in history with the Pelicans and the Bucks. Why do you say that? Oh, well, Mr. Drew Holiday. Shout out to Drew Holiday. Tough luck for those Celtics, especially in the aftermath of Jason Tatum's Achilles injury. And, right now DeJounte Murray is in the recovery process too. So, hey, prayers up. But Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards maybe ever. He's had a great career. Definitely a very underrated player that does not get enough respect and credit. Just won the Sportsmanship Award as well, I might add. But he enjoyed some great years in New Orleans, especially next to Anthony Davis and briefly next to Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, I was excited at what they could do as a trio, but unfortunately, injuries are just terrible. I was like, let me think of an appropriate word to throw in, but let me just say they're just terrible, right? But, so you're with me on Drew Holiday. The Pelicans for the next 2 years, thanks to the Drew Holiday trade they made nearly 5 seasons ago, have those picks, 26 and 27. Now the Bucks are a team that went all in, right? They went all in when they got Dame Lillard. And they said, we're running it back. We're keeping our guys. Might add a piece or two, you know what I'm saying? Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr. And Gary Trent as well. But we're going all in. We're going all in with Giannis at the helm. Unfortunately, that led to them being sent home very, very swiftly by Indiana. So now there's much at stake for them, right? Giannis has openly expressed, I'm not opposed to seeking and seeing what the trade market is. I'm not opposed to seeing an offer. Giannis is not opposed to an offer that he cannot refuse, okay? Now, leverage. Leverage is a great thing to have in life. The Pelicans might not be the most ideal fit, right? Because, look, 2K basketball-wise, whoo, Giannis and Zion, whoo! Yo, whoever's playing point does not matter. You can throw me out there. All you got to do is just throw it up and one of them is going to come down and get it. Lob City, right? Or give it to Giannis. He's going to go to work. Give it to Zion. He's going to go to work. But both of them, spacing. I don't know how that works, right? Plus, knowing Giannis, he wants to win. Because you can't, shout out to Slim Charles when he was talking to Bodie. Can't keep talking about the old days. Because those old days. They won in 2021. It's 2025 now. A lot has happened in that time between 2021 and 2025. And Giannis is not getting any younger. He's still in his prime. He's still a top 5 level player. And he wants to win now. So, in order to do so, he's going to need an opportunity. With love to the team, we ain't sniffing an NBA Finals. But I do believe, and I'm going to expound on it a bit more in the next part. I do believe that we're, crazy as it is, when fully healthy, because there was not a more snake-bitten team this year than the Pelicans. When fully healthy, we are at worst, hear me and hear me clearly, a playing team. Yep, you heard me. At worst, a playing team. So, but the Bucks are also looking for another team, which again makes us very attractive because we have 2 of their picks already. They're going to be more inclined to want to cut business with us, right? And then that puts us in a position where if with any of our young talent and throwing Zion into the mix, I don't want us to trade Zion, but if we do, right? Now, you might have one of the best trade packages of the entire NBA. Now, it's just time to put the bait on the fishing hook, put the carrot on the stick, and see who takes the bait. See who jumps. Some team might say, hey, Dallas, maybe y'all knew something. LA got sent home in 5 to Minnesota. Even after, they still had LeBron. They still had Austin Reeves. Still had Rui. Maybe Nico knew something, right? And now they got the number 1 overall pick. They're going to probably get Cooper Flagg. Kyrie will be coming back. AD will be coming back. So maybe there's another team out there that's like, I don't like our current star or franchise player. Certain relationships, right? It's always better to be the initiator than the recipient. So maybe a team out there is like, hey, I want to get rid of my star, but I need to have an incentive why. Give me a why, give me a reason, and let's talk shop. So, the Bucks and the Pelicans might be doing business again. Who we end up getting from all of that and where Giannis goes, only time will tell. Look, if Giannis wants to come to the Bayou, my brother, we got you. We got you. We'll take care of you. We'll treat you real good down here. Come down to the Smoothie King Center. But we'll see. We got to see what happens. There's much more in store. The 4th and final point of today. Now, this current roster. Who fits on this current roster? Now, I'm just going to break down kind of the starting 5 / first 2-3 guys to come off the bench. So, as mentioned, Yves Missy had as I was saying, Yves Missy, first round pick from last year, had a very solid rookie campaign. I was impressed with just his tenacity. I was impressed with his physicality, and I was impressed with his progression. Averaged 9 points, 8 boards, a block, 55% shooting from the field, and most importantly, 14 double-doubles. Very encouraging sign. I think he could be our center for the future, right? Now, personally, I do believe Kaman has a higher ceiling, but much remains to be seen with Yves Missy. So I don't want us to get rid of him, which is why I say the Kaman pick is least likely, but who knows, right? We did struggle on defense in the interior, and it doesn't hurt to have more defenders than less. Moving on. Power forward, Zion got that lockdown. Now, injuries though. Injuries. If he is injured and unfit to play, then yes, obviously that is going to, call into question certain things. That is going to make someone like I guess you could still put Kaman there, but that's really going to make more so a Collin Murray Bayless. That's gonna make him more attractive as a draft piece. Now, on to where I really say this is the ultimate luxury. This is the ultimate, it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem. It's a good problem, but it's a problem. From small forward to shooting guard, we've got an abundance of talent. Got an abundance of guys that are very talented. Trey Murphy, as mentioned before, stepped up tremendously. I would argue and say he was probably the most valuable player for the Pelicans of the 2024-2025 campaign. Averaged 21 a game, 5 boards, nearly 4 assists. Shot better than ever before. Showed takeover ability. Showed that he can be more than just the supporting player. Showed that he's not just the 3-and-D guy. I saw a lot of people were kind of like, oh, he's like a better Trevor Ariza. Oh no, this young man can go get buckets. He can go score. He's got a little bit of a handle. He's got the 3 ball. He's got the mid range. You know what I'm saying? I believe that we haven't seen the best of his potential either, right? And you can put him either at the 3 or the 2, which makes him very versatile because he's too big for a lot of 2s and he's too fat. He's too athletic for a lot of 3s. So he provides a lot of mismatches. I do believe that Trey Murphy is a core player that you keep/build around. That's my personal opinion. Herbert! Mr. Jones. Herb Jones. One of my favorite junkyard dog type players. Y'all remember Jerome Williams? Jerome Junkyard Dog? That's one of the greatest nicknames in NBA history for a player. Now, Herb. Let me not get on Jerome. Herb Jones, 10 a game, 4 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, right? But he routinely takes the best assignment, dives for all the loose balls, sets all the hard screens, and in general brings the energy and hustle and that grit, that toughness, right? Very nice guy. But on the court, he plays mean when need be. You know what I'm saying? 6'8", 6'9", stout. Reminds me a lot of James Posey. I do believe he's got more on-ball ability and James Posey was the better shooter. But a player like that, James Posey was on 2 championship teams, the 06 Heat and the 08 Celtics. Enjoyed a long career as, the type of guy who draws the best defensive matchup and is able to make the small winning plays. So I'm all for keeping Herb, whether he is as a starter and we've got Trey at the 2, and we got Herb playing the the three, or whether Herb is playing a small ball four if Zion is hurt, God willing he isn't, or having Herb up in our second unit, you know what I'm saying? Giving us more depth because, again, this team has so much talent on it. It is frustrating and it's just absolutely mind-blowing that we're not better than where we are. But again, we've shown flashes. It's just all about getting back to that. Now, again, this is where even more problems come. But I mentioned the two veterans, DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum. So DeJounte, the two, but he can play point, obviously, with his size, his ball handling ability, and he's one of the best two-way players in the league when healthy. We gave up a lot for him last offseason. He was expected to come in and be, another player who could go out, get buckets, space the floor on occasion if need be, but lock down the opposing best player, be a closer in the fourth quarter. He has his struggles. If we're ignoring field goal percentages, he didn't have a terrible year. He averaged about, 18 points, 7 boards, 7 assists, 2 steals. But the efficiency was bad. Shooting below 40% is just not going to cut it, my man. It's just not. And I've been a huge DeJounte Murray fan since he was coming out of Seattle in high school, played at UW, great all-star in San Antonio, had some great all-star years in Atlanta. So I still have hope and belief that this trade will work for us because, right now, one could argue the Hawks won the trade. Whatever. Not like they doing anything, though. No diss. All love to my ATL brethren, but I think our future is a lot greater and a lot better. Now, DeJounte could still very well fit into the timeline of the future, but Achilles injury. He is set to be out until either November or February, roughly. He got injured in February, so Achilles injuries usually are 9 to 12-month recovery. And will he be the same player? We don't know. The same questions that Boston is going to be asking themselves with Jason Tatum. Get better, my brother. After he just tore his Achilles in the series against the Knicks. And that's an injury that is not easy to come back from, but DeJounte Murray's 27. Yeah, he's 27, going on 28. So he's still young. He's still young, relatively healthy player most of his career. Just has that dog mentality as well. Still carries that chip on his shoulder. So if there's any player that I do believe can make a strong comeback and return to form, I do believe it's DeJounte. We're going to see, though. And then CJ McCollum, point guard / shooting guard. Well, I got to talk. I can't forget my guy, GTA, Grand Theft Alvarado. But CJ McCollum, now CJ is a player who, CBA stuff aside, because I know a lot of people have their gripes with him in his advocacy as a player president. But CJ McCollum is supposed to be healthy by training camp. He went down with a right foot injury, not as severe, not as serious, but still, right? Last year was averaging 21, 4 and 4. Shot 37% from three, though. I was going to say his field goal and free throws a little lower than normal of what we come to expect from CJ McCollum, but he shot well from three. One of the better three-point shooting players that we had on the team. One of the best shot creators that we had. And one of the most seasoned players who, really knows the ropes and rigors. To me, he's been a player that has been an all-star snub plenty of times, especially, when he was playing in Portland next to Dame Lillard. He's not going to probably be part of the future at 32, 33. However, I still believe that there is a lot of valuable insight he can provide. Plus, his on-ball ability as a shot creator and off-ball ability. His game doesn't really require a lot of over-the-top athleticism. So I do believe that he is a player that maybe if they restructure his deal, it just kind of depends on some things. But it also depends on how he comes back. Because if he comes back playing well, then okay, keep him in the starting lineup. If not, have him come off the bench. Let him be in that Vinnie Johnson, microwave scorer off the bench. A Jason Terry. type of player. Vinny Johnson won multiple rings with the Pistons. Jason Terry won a ring with the Dallas Mavericks, was one of the best 6 men off the bench scorers for many years. I can't forget him, though. GTA! Grand Theft Alvarado. Jose Alvarado. Now, GTA 6 is supposed to potentially be coming out, and we can't lose GTA. We can't lose Mr. Jose Alvarado. We can't lose him. Now, I know there's a lot of love for him, but then there's also a lot of okay, but we have to be real, right? Is he a starter? I don't know, right? On paper, 10 a game, 2 boards, nearly 5 assists, steal. His impact isn't measured solely on the box score, right? It's in, just like with Herb Jones, those hustle plays, the energy, just that competitive fire, right? You see that, you feel that, right? He's like Houdini, Speedy Gonzalez. Now you see him, now you don't. As a player, is he a starter, though? That I don't know. I think, right, he showed in some moments last year when we made the playoff run that he can be a starting point. But maybe he's more of a J.J. Barea off the bench, which there's no shame in. J.J. Barea, I mean, I keep talking about that 2011 Mavs team, but J.J. Barea was a big reason why the Mavs had such a talented bench. I mean, he was terrorizing LeBron, if we're being real. He was. And I mean, at his size, the shots he was able to make in the paint, right, it was pretty what? How did he make that shot? He's too small to be doing that. With Alvarado, his efficiency does have to improve if he wants to be a J.J. Barea type player. And he's more of a point guard, but in terms of the impact and in terms of the way he's able to, play despite his size, it reminds me of that. So you definitely have to have guys like those on the team, guys who just are unafraid and really bleed, that love and the pride within the city. Now, who's going to be the 6th man, all that? Only question will tell. Now, if we're going off guys who I do believe are going to be coming off the bench but are going to be kind of the first names called off, we got my guy Jordan Hawkins, UConn. Big reason why they won that national title in 2023. Prior to them going, back to back in 2024. Had a bit of a regression after his rookie year, but still put up 11, 3 and an assist, as well as shooting 33% from 3. Now, Jordan Hawkins, I was very high on in his draft process. He was compared to, several other UConn greats like Rip Hamilton and Ray Allen. Rip Hamilton's borderline Hall of Famer or Hall of Very Good. Ray Allen's a Hall of Famer. So anytime you get comparisons like those, yes, the expectations are going to be high. And there was a lot of expectation, especially after the rookie year that he had. He did have some regressions this year. I did feel like, he didn't really find his comfort. It wasn't until the middle of the season he started to really figure out. But he kind of came shooting cold. So if he's hot, he's on. He's on. And I do think that his scoring ability is very tantalizing. I believe that there's a lot more to his game than has even been discovered. So I don't want to just give up on him just yet. And I do believe he can fit on this roster, but he potentially might become a better player elsewhere. Remains to be seen. Then we got my guy Brandon Boston, Kentucky. Now, Brandon Boston coming out of high school was seen as a certified first-round guy. Did not really light up the world in his lone season at Kentucky. Ended up slipping all the way to pick 54 of the second round. So he's had to fight and claw his way in staying in this league. And last year, he did show a lot of promise. Averaged, similar stats to Jordan Hawkins, around 11 a game. Because, Hawkins averaged 10.8, Brandon Boston averaged 10.7. So around, 11 a game, 3 boards and 2 assists. Now, he offers a little bit more playmaking, a little bit more on-ball shot creation than Jordan Hawkins does. I do believe that Jordan Hawkins has a deeper bag. And I know that doesn't make sense because, like, wait, how could someone who can't create as well off the dribble have a deeper bag? But in sense of, like, spots on the court that he can hit shots from. But Brandon Boston does have the size, and he did shoot better from three. So they might say, hey, let's see what you can do in our second unit. Can you be that first guy off the bench that comes in and gets buckets for us? Remains to be seen. I think overall, though, this team has a lot of promise. This team, it's tough because, I mean, I was saying even back in 2022-23 that they had one of the best rosters in the entire NBA. The entire NBA, not just the Western Conference, but entire NBA. And so far, I've yet to be taken up on that, praise, but I ain't lose hope. I ain't lose faith, right? Quitting is for suckers. But they showed last year as an 8th seed, as a playing team, what they are capable of when you put everything together. I still believe in the Pelicans in that regard, right? I still believe in Zion. I still believe in the rest of the team around. I believe it's a good group of guys that want to win and want to prove, are anxious to prove. Joe Dumars has the pedigree both as a Hall of Fame player himself, one of the best two guards of his era, but also as a championship winner in Detroit, building one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference of the 2000s. I believe that Joe Dumars can have that same impact in New Orleans. It's too soon to be, throwing in the towel. It's too soon to be jumping the gun or jumping off the boat. Only time will tell. Now, my prediction for the 2025-2026 year, that's assuming that we draft well, we're able to net, if we, God forbid, but if we do make a trade for Zion, if we do trade Zion, we net a superstar player who's, borderline superstar. And if we, stay healthy. Health has been our biggest Achilles heel of them all. Ironic, right? Because when healthy, I do believe that this team is at worst, hear me and hear me clearly, at worst a playing team. And at best, somewhere between 5 and 6. That sounds crazy. The Western Conference is no joke either. But I do believe in this team. I do believe if they put it all together, that they can be, they can have a breakout year like the Rockets did this past year. In fact, there's a lot of similarities with the two teams. But the Rockets don't got Zion, all right? I ain't losing faith in the young man. Neither should y'all. There's a lot to be excited about with this roster. There's a lot to be excited about in this next draft. Only time will tell.